Well, I'm back again with another Makita unboxing. This is actually the genuine thing. One of these brushless chainsaws with a dual battery, so it's a 36-volt one. And I forget how many inches it was it 12 or 14? 350 millimeter. So that's a 14, I think, isn't it, in inches? 300 mils is 12 inches. So it should be a handy little thing, and they had a redemption offer on this. Is sort of what I've been thinking about, getting an electric chainsaw for a while, and a redemption offer where you can get another 2 batteries, which I could use for other Makita stuff, even if not this. Supposedly the batteries don't last the longest in them, but they are saying, I think on the Bunnings website, you can get around 40 100mm log cuts out of it, out of a charge. So they come with 2 5 ampere hour batteries. And yeah, it's handy if you can get another couple, because if you are doing any serious stuff with these, it's probably worth having at least 2 sets of batteries. I think it comes with one of the faster chargers, which are really good as well. I've only got a slower charger that I got in a pair of drills kit, and I've only got 3 ampere hour batteries on those. Oh, here it goes. It includes one same time dual port rapid charger, so you can charge both batteries at once, or 2 out of different drills or whatever, and 2 of the batteries, here 5 ampere hours, and it was just over $800 I think for the kit, which with the 4 batteries makes it very useful, because I can use the batteries and other things. I don't use the chainsaw that often, but handy when you do want one. It'll be nice to have an electric one, because you don't have to deal with the exhaust, you don't have to deal with mixing up the 2-stroke and petrol and refilling that all the time. And don't have to worry about noise so much. These are usually a lot quieter than a little 2-stroke engine right in your face sort of thing, and up near your ears and whatever. Really just handy for pruning in the garden, taking out small trees, and if you drop a big tree, these are great for just limbing them, because you just got to, I don't know, they're reasonably heavy I think, but they're still better than a great big saw, and you can swing it around over your head if you've got like a big gum tree or something that's down. There's branches sticking up everywhere. And these you can just go around and take off all the leafy stuff, even if you don't take out so much of the bigger limbs. But the ones that are up in the air, I like to cut as much of them up while they're just hanging in the air, like into log length pieces as I can, because it's much easier than dealing with them later, though sometimes there's just too many and you decide to just cut them into 2-meter lengths or something and deal with them later. But with a nice little saw like this, it should be less strain to just get in and de-limb all the worst of the leafy stuff. I sort of cut them into ute tray sort of lengths, so I can take them and burn them somewhere rather than out in the paddock or whatever, and burn all the grass. I usually have a burn pile, so I tend to cut everything to fit in the back of the ute, cut off all the leafy stuff to be burnt, and then any like limb timber I'll cut up, just about anything if it's leaf free and stick free sort of stuff, even down to, you know, 20-30 mil stuff. Even if it's clean, I'll tend to just chop it all up and use it as kindling. So these are perfect for that sort of thing. I do have an electric chainsaw, like a 240-volt one, that I use to cut limb timber, and a bit of a pallet arrangement so you can hang the limbs in it and just cut them down. Still a lot of work. It's the easiest way is normally if you just cut them attached to the tree into the final length, but obviously with the mess you create, not always possible, and there's plenty of them that are smashed in the ground and stuff you can't do. So that's the sort of project I have in mind for this thing. It'll be handy around the garden, because I've often got to cut small limbs off trees and stuff, and same thing can cut them up as well, possibly on site. And yeah, it'd be better than the small chainsaw I got, which was only a real cheapo one, and it's not running the greatest, and better than swinging a great big massive petrol one around. And supposedly I think this comes with no chain, but I don't know if that's true or not. We'll find out, I guess. I would have thought they'd include a chain in it and have it ready to go, but so let's get this plastic off here. Almost need a chainsaw to get into the chainsaw. But I guess I don't want people stealing stuff out of the boxes and stuff these days, so... Oh, they might be right, I don't see a chain yet, but it might be in a bag somewhere. Oh, there it is. So yeah, so I'm pretty sure the Bunnings site said chain not included. You can pick up a couple of these chains for about $30 on eBay. I might even get a spare one or two, just because it means if you blunt one on something, you can just change it and worry about sharpening it some other time. You don't want to be stuck in the middle of a job and have to stop and sharpen your chain. It probably won't take too long on one of these because they're only small. So we've got a cover, we've got our bar, we've got some oil for something. Economic operator. I guess we'll find out what that actually goes into, because this should just take battery, and of course you still need to use your bar lubrication oil for the chain and bar. Instructions. Oh, there's the charger. That'll be very handy to have. That's a nice upgrade. I have a friend who has one of these and helped him build his house, and these are very handy, much quicker than the one I've got, and you can do two at a time. So that's what kind of swung me in the end. I thought I need a saw. One of these would be a good upgrade. Some more batteries, another 4 batteries would be very handy, even if I don't use them on the saw very often. So that's a nice, what's that, a DC18RD. Output's 3.5 volt, 1.5 amp, 7.2, I don't know, 7.2 to 18 volts at 9 amp. So I can put out 9 amp out of each output. That's pretty impressive. And 7.2 to 18 volts. So maybe they run different batteries you can put in these. Lithium ion 14.4 to 18 volts. Oh, nickel metal hydrides, it does 7.2 to 14.4. So you can use it on your older stuff too. I didn't realise that. And that's what the other one is. It's a USB port. So that's handy. You can charge your phone at the worksite as well, I guess. But I'm not that interested in that. I'm interested in the saw itself. I've got to turn it on. It runs. So what's that? 3 modes. 1 and off. Yeah, that's it. LWA 94. Is that the decibels or something? This is a DUC353. Made in the 11th month of 2024 by the look of it. 36 volts, 0 to 20 meters a second. So yeah, they give you the speed in how quickly the chain goes. I think you can buy single battery ones, but they're slower. A faster chain is probably better, but it depends what you're doing with it. If you're just really a garden tool, you may not need it for just pruning and stuff. And I think this is some sort of quick tensioning system. What have we got here? Oh, that must be the tensioner. How do we remove this thing? Oh, that's your brake. Always got to have a chain brake. Though a lot of these, the good thing about electric saws too is the chain usually stops immediately. That's why I bought one for cutting lin timber, because you can just cut through stuff, just stop it and throw it out of the way immediately. You don't have to worry about it slowing down the chain, because usually they have run on the petrol ones. So that's the beauty about a lot of this stuff. What have I got here? Plus and minus. So, oh no, that's the tensioner then. What's this do then? I think that's the idea. Oh no, this does unscrew. Okay, it is unscrewing. So that's the unscrewing bit. Oh, that's a nice design. So all we should have to do is attach this bit. And I assume it goes in the normal direction. Yeah, it does. Top of the chain heads that way. So you have your teeth going a certain way. That's an Oregon chain. No cheapo stuff here. Well, you'd hope not with Makita. It wasn't a cheap saw. The fun part's usually trying to unjiggle these things, because they like to go in these little loops everywhere. Come on, and I still haven't got the hang of how you stop them. Nearly at it. Yeah, that should be it. So you want these sharp little points going across the top. You're just looping around the little pins sticking out the end and the little sprocket thing on the end of your bar. And try and get them in the two slots on the sides. And where's our... oh, that must be on the other bit. The tensioner part, there's a pin that sticks down, usually into these holes. There's the pin there. So just get it around the sprockety thing. What do they call those things on the saw? I think there's another term for them. And we've just got to make sure that pin here goes straight in the hole. And we should just have to... oops. How do we get that to work? Just get the thread started, I guess, and wind her on. A bit weird because it's spring loaded. Someone's trying to pull me back. So I think that has to go on pretty tight, one would assume. That fits back in, and then you've got a super amount of tension there. Oh, actually I shouldn't have tightened it until I do the tension, I guess. I always figure that with chainsaws. Let's loosen it a tad. Not too much. Probably want something like that. You want a bit of play, otherwise you're just gonna wear the bar out. Of course this isn't lubricated, and that's why I take the batteries off. Never touch any sort of chainsaw chain without the saw either in the off position or the batteries removed, because technically you could almost roll start a saw by doing this if it's a petrol one. Now that's usually where you get a bit of play that can adjust the or affect the chain tension. Usually best to push it up because it will push up as you push down on things anyway. I think that's pretty close. It's really just a matter of feel, but you want a bit of play and a little bit of hang in it. That might even be a little bit too much, but they often tighten up as you use them anyway. So this beast is ready to go, I think. Oh, we probably should check the instruction book. Be a hell of a lot of safety stuff. Intended for sawing wood. Yeah, well that's the usual use for them, but I guess some people probably wouldn't know, would they? Let's just see what all these... oh, no chainsaw safety stuff indicating the remaining battery capacity. I guess we should actually have a look at that, since it's safe to put this thing back together. Well, they're pretty close to flat, but that's normal for shipping. So we better give them a charge. Got your main power switch. To stand by the chainsaw, switch the main power switch until the main power lamp lights off. To turn off, press the main power switch again. Well, we already worked that out. The main power lamp blinks as the switch triggered is pulled under unoperable conditions. So if the battery is... turn on the main power switch with the holding down the lock-off lever and the switch trigger. Pull the switch trigger while the chain brake is applied. Release the chain brake while holding down on the lock-off lever and pulling the switch trigger. Oh, the lock-off lever here. Yeah, I think that tension is fairly good at the moment. Possibly just a little loose, but the problem is if you have it too loose and you're doing little twigs and stuff, you can get bits of bark or twigs get under between the chain and the bar and flick it off, or it just something pushes it enough that something pinches it and it'll push it off the bar. So that's one of the risks with a loose chain. So chain lubrication is an adjustment underneath. Checking the rundown brake. Yeah, so that's I guess the rundown brake is the... is that turned off again? So that shuts reasonably quick, but not immediately. It's probably turning off because I don't have any power. So that's got a little bit of... it's probably about average for an electric saw. They don't stop instantly, but they do stop fairly quick. These are 3/8 chains as well, so that's the most common sprocket sort of size for the chain. Hold the chainsaw with both hands. Press a lock off lever, then pull the switch trigger. Saw starts immediately. Push the front handguard towards the back of your hand. Yeah, make sure it locks it off. I'll check that after checking the rundown brake, which is what we just did. Chainsaw must come to a standstill within 1 second, so that's pretty much what it does. One of the beauties about them, because the petrol one will tend to keep going, and may, even if the idle's not right or whatever, it'll keep running while idling, which is a danger, of course, because these are sharp as, and if you touch yourself on it or kneel down or something and touch it, you're going to cut yourself badly. So that's the pump feed rate screw under there. So that's your chain oil, obviously, that symbol. Good to know it's got that, because often you want to adjust them to exactly the rate you want. Removing and installing new chain, which we just worked out pretty much how to do that. Sprocket cover. Pull the wheel up. Well, yeah, I think that's all. The warranty stuff we better sort out. The adjusting dial, chainsaw tension. Do not tighten too much. May cause breakage of chain wear on the guide bar and breakage of adjusting dial. So even the adjusting dial can break. Chain which is too loose can jump off the bar, may cause an injury accident. Well, normally they just go limp, but yeah, you really don't want your chains coming off if you can help it. Yeah, it may become loose after many hours of use, which they generally tend to do. They do stretch over time. Press the lever until it clicks. Ah. So it's actually got a clicking. Let's see about that. I should really. I'll just loosen that off a bit. I don't know if they say to loosen it off, but we want more. Well, it ain't clicking. If that's the thing that's meant to click. I should really remove the battery before I even think about touching it, but I value my fingers, but I think it's turned itself off. Or is that the one that clicks? Adjusting dial. Press and fully open the lever. Oh, is it this one? That's lever 2. So they're talking about that one clicking. Well, I feel like I'm going to break something here. Nothing's clicking, so I'm not sure. I don't know. Lift up the guide bar tip slightly. Yeah, that's what you normally got to do, and adjust the chain tension. Turn the adjusting dial to the minus direction to loosen. Tighten the saw chain until the lower side of the saw chain fits the guide bar rail, as illustrated. Keep holding the guide bar slightly and tighten the sprocket cover. Make sure that the saw chain does not loose at the lower side. Yeah, not sure about anything being meant to click. They don't mention that again, so not sure about that. And lubrication, this is important. Clean the area around the oil tank, fill up with 200 mils. After refilling, hold the chainsaw away from the tree, start it and wait until lubrication on the saw chain is adequate. May take up 2 minutes for saw chain oil to begin its lubricating, and often you've got to take these things off and clean them out as well, because they will block the holes in the bar where the oil goes. Use the saw chain oil exclusively for Makita chainsaws equivalent oil, so I have to check what they're actually meant to use. And they show you it. If you run the saw and spray it, it should spray a little bit of oil off onto wood. You'll notice on dry wood or even on water or something, you'll see the oil landing. When pruning trees, use botanical oil. Mineral oil may harm trees. Yeah, I think it's normally some sort of botanical oil. Some people mix in old car engine oil and all sorts of stuff, but probably not the best thing to do. Some tips on cutting, filling, maintenance, sharpen it, cleaning the guide bar. Yeah, that does tend to, particularly in the oil bits, you want to keep them clean. Sprocket cover, oil discharge hole. Yeah, that's the stuff that fills up with lots of sawdust. Placing the sprocket, because that's the thing will wear out over time. Now it looks like it's one of these nice they modern ones, they got a circlip on them, so you just flick a circlip off and take it off. You don't have to stall the motor with a bit of rope in the cylinder and unscrew it or something like the old ones, which were a pain. So that's really nice. You can just flick it off, get the new part, stick it back on again. Much better design. Thank God they came up with that for modern chainsaws. So I still don't know, is this the oil for it? For the lubing it? One would assume so. I'll have to find out. Well, do they? I mean, in here they should tell you what you need, I guess. They always refer to something and then power source, battery charger, saw chain type. So at least they'd give you the details. Chain oil. That's the volume. Noise. Well, yeah, 92 decibels was that thing I think we saw on the back of it. Well, 94 it says LWA. That's LWA 100 decibels. That's not what it says on the back. Anyway, still used with caution as far as hearing goes. Nowhere near as loud as a petrol one, I don't think. Well, we just heard it, but I guess if you're using it long term, you might want to wear some hearing protection. Anyway, they're pretty horrible things to listen to. So what's our periodic maintenance? Inspection, everyday cleaning, annually. Check it authorised service centre. Before storage, check its authorised service centre. Saw chain, inspection before operation. Guide bar, everyday clean or inspection. Remove from chainsaw before storage. Chain brake, check it every 3 months. Check the oil feed rate before operation. Switch trigger, chain catcher, and screws and nuts. Yeah, well, that's, you do need to keep an eye on your screws and nuts on these things because things tend to vibrate loose. So it doesn't really say anything about that oil. I assume that goes in it as a chain. Doesn't seem that viscous though. So I'll have to find out what they recommend, and it doesn't tell you anywhere in here. As for the charger, I think they've actually got a 2-year warranty on these. Adapters, battery, chargers, 2 years. All cordless, skins, lithium ion. 5-year registers within 30 days or 3-year registered post 30 days or non-registered. So it looks like we've got to register that ASAP. So just having a receipt should be enough to get your full warranty. Well, how do we actually do it? Tax invoice for your warranty. Oh, registered online at Makita.com. My Makita within 30 days of invoice. Okay, so yeah, so we need to register the thing. Low kickback saw chain. So it doesn't even say how much is 650, 100. just the percentage. Oh, well, I'll get this thing charged up and we'll have another look at it. And we're away. Okay, I signed on to the Makita website, and you just set up, I think it's a my Makita or something account, and you can put your details in, so that was no problem. Now, one of the weird things I've found with this so far, it's all charged up now, is you turn it on, well, when it wants to. The switch is a little iffy, I think, but if you just leave it there a few seconds, it goes off, about 5 seconds. So nothing much happens. And it's off. Turn it on. Give it a run. Goes fine while it's running, but then goes straight off again. I thought that's a bit crazy. That would be a real pain if it does that every time you take your hand off. Now obviously most of the time you're probably only taking your hand right off when you're putting it down, but this is almost one of those safety features possibly designed so that if you do fiddle with the chain or anything and feel it, it's off there, as well as there's no chance anyone can turn it on there as well. Or maybe they're worried kids are going to pick it up and do something, don't know, but I mean, kids, if they can work out that, they can probably work out to press that button. So I'm not sure what the exact supposed safety feature is meant to be, but a lot of these electric tools seem to have extra features that can sometimes be a bit annoying. What I did find though, if you turn it on, press that down, that actually keeps it on. So if we now hit the trigger, of course it runs. Stop it. So if you're doing some cutting or whatever, you've obviously got two hands on this, so I guess you just keep that top part of your hand pressed down and the thing will stay on. So I don't know, you know, again, the reason for having the two buttons is a good idea, because it means if you fall over or something in a weird position and your hand sort of slips off but the trigger presses on a branch or something, let's just say there's some weird thing like that could happen, there's no way the saw will start up. Very unlikely that if you drop it and part of you's touching one bit or whatever but not touching it properly, or something's pressing on it, at least it can't, you know, be leaning up against you and chop you and you can't stop it or something. So there's good reasons for those twin switches, but that should be enough safety, you would think. But they've designed this to annoyingly go off if you either don't use it or if you take your hand off it. So if you sit this thing down on the ground, it's not the end of the world, because you can basically reach it with your thumb. Looks like you can turn it on with that in place, so that's something. Let's see, does that still run? It does, so that's good. So at least you can turn it on with just that part switch. I think they said if you press that button in, it won't turn on, which makes sense. But yeah, as soon as you let go of that, it's off almost instantly. So I was a bit worried there for a while that it wasn't actually working properly, but nothing in the manual really tells you that. But that's the key with this. So if you put the thing completely down to one side, it turns fully off. You know, it'd be fair enough if it was like 5 minutes or something, but it instantly turns off. As you can see, it's not even 5 seconds after you let go of that thing, it's like a second or two. So, bit of an odd design in a way, and like I say, it's a safety feature that is begging someone to bypass it by putting some tape or something around here and holding that in, just so that light stays on, which defeats a actually useful safety feature. So that's kind of a dodgy design, and I certainly don't recommend you get rid of this thing, because it is a good idea to use two things, because it ensures your hand has to be on the tool and nothing else can push that in. There's good reason for that safety feature, but why that thing can't stay on, bit of a silly idea really. I mean, it's probably not the end of the world. I'll have to get some oil in this and try it out. Couldn't really find any info on the oil this uses. Looks like it's just standard bar lube, but should be just high viscosity vegetable oil based stuff is the best stuff. It's non-polluting, it's biodegradable, which is exactly what you want. Doesn't harm plants that you're cutting. And you can buy it reasonably cheap. I actually get it off eBay in a big 20-litre drum, because it costs so much at the Bunnings or somewhere like that these days. It's quite a bit for 4 litres now, but you can buy a 20-litre drum that lasts a long, long time. And I would recommend doing that, because if you get through enough of it over the years, it's getting, I don't know if it's $30 or $40 for 4 litres now, but it's up there somewhere. And with a big saw, it doesn't take long to get rid of 4 litres, but 20 litres certainly lasts quite a long time. At least there's 5 of those 4 litre ones in there. And that is probably the best way to buy that stuff, but it looks like you can just put standard stuff in it. I don't know, still don't know what that oil they supplied with it is for. I guess we could have a look at that. Is it just a normal, looks more like a normal oil. And does it even come out of this bottle? What's the bet? It's sealed up or something. There's probably a seal under here, isn't there? There is a little plug, I think. Let's have a look at that stuff. Or that. That is kind of sticky, I think. Did that sort of... Yeah, I don't know. Don't know if that's... Doesn't smell like mineral oil. Kind of dodgy that they give you a bottle of oil with no warnings, no nothing about whether you can even drink it or not. You would think a container like that would tell you what it is. I mean, maybe it's perfectly, because it's vegetable oil, maybe it's perfectly drinkable. I bet it doesn't taste very nice like vegetable oil. Maybe it's just a load of canola oil or something. But yeah, that's a bit odd. And it's in a little, that's a little squirter bottle. That's not for pouring into there. So kind of silly to give you something and they don't tell you what it is. I guess you're supposed to know. Maybe do we put it in? Now I better be careful what I'm touching. I wonder if it's to go in there, because you want to keep that thing lubed up as well. Normally I think that just the oil going around the chain is enough. But to me that looks like it's possibly made for squirting in that little hole there. I guess we could put a bit in there and see. I might even just use some of my oil that's already open. So much for not using mineral oil, but this is only just to do the little bearing at the end. Yeah, I think that disappeared down in there somewhere. And again, I certainly feel safer knowing it does turn off when I'm doing stuff like that, but me, I would pull the batteries off, or at least one of the batteries should be enough to stop anything operating. No chance of anything operating with one battery off. That's the only way I'd really feel safe working on something like this. And the other thing I noticed, it looks like they've added some lubrication. I was just talking to a neighbour of mine about the Makita stuff, and the big problem with these batteries is they get, you know, grit and stuff in there and makes them hard to get on and off. I was just saying I felt like putting some grease on there. Not sure if they've actually, I don't think they put it on the plastic, more just the contacts. But they definitely want something that's probably one of the things that lets down the Makita. Some of the other manufacturers' batteries are better, because these do get very tight and hard to put on and off once they've been used a bit. But other than that, generally pretty good stuff, the Makita stuff. So hopefully this will be alright. We'll just have to see. I don't really have much to cut up at the moment. I do have some rubbish on the burn pile. Maybe I'll have a go at some of that, because that's all smaller branches and stuff off a tree I cut down recently. So I might even have a go at a bit of that and just see how it's like, how it goes operating with that potentially annoying feature. But I guess if you just remember to hold that down, which you're going to be doing, because one hand on the main bar, one hand on this, and then it's just a matter of flicking the trigger so it doesn't, you know, I have a tendency often to let go. I mean, especially if you're messing around, if you're like walking around in a tree, you've fallen, all the branches and stuff, you tend to be one-handed with the saw a lot of the time. Petrol saw, you're always just used to, you let it go, it's idling in one arm, you're moving around, you can balance with your other arm. This, you can't balance easily when you're hanging onto a saw like this, so it's going to be a bit annoying, I think, until I do a big tree or something and try it out. May find this thing is not the best, but you can turn it on there when it wants to. It's a little picky sometimes. Look at that. Maybe I'm just not pressing it hard enough. It clicks, but Maybe you've got to press it a bit longer. Yeah, I think that's what it is. If I do it really quick. Yeah, sometimes it works when you press it harder. Maybe because that just is a bit longer when you press harder. You're pushing just a little bit longer, so I've probably just got to get used to the time. If I'm a bit slower. But again, that's annoying having to be slow on a switch. So I reckon that feature is going to be a little bit annoying on this thing. Obviously done for safety reasons, but it's probably a bit of overkill. And yeah, like I say, if you're walking around over trip hazards and stuff, you want to be hanging the saw down by one side of your body, and while you're goose stepping around over the branches and stuff, you're not going to have your hand on that. But I guess if you're moving around, you're not like you're going to be using the saw instantly again. I don't know. Until I drop a big gum tree down or something, which is what I want this for limbing, not really going to find out. And weight wise, it's pretty much the same as a petrol saw, I think. Petrol saw full of oil, and I haven't got the oil in this one yet, I guess. It added a little bit more weight. But yeah, it's not particularly cumbersome or anything. I don't think it's really any different. But I guess the good thing is it's not puffing smoke out into your face. It's not as noisy, it's not going to vibrate as much, especially since it's not idling all the time. So it's going to be a lot more pleasant to use, I think, regardless. Yeah, tension's still good, I think. Oh, well, I've actually got this thing boxed up again. So it went from an unboxing to a boxing. I mean, I was a little bit iffy about that silly on-off switch that just turns off every time you let go of the trigger on the handle. And then I tried to get my redemption offer back on this, and they're just coming up with excuse after excuse. And it only really made financial sense to buy this whole thing if I got the 4 batteries, the 2 included and the 2 by redemption. I've just had to deal with some completely stupid stuff by email with Makita, and they've just, I think they're on to the 4th excuse. Yeah, first excuse was, thanks for submitting your Makita redemption claim. Unfortunately, your receipt does not clearly indicate the items purchased, or we're not able to read the invoice number. Blah, 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 to determine eligibility. So I sent it through to them again. I filled it out on their website, and it was a bit slow, and I think I might have even had to fill it out twice or something because it crashed or some stuff halfway through, or it wasn't accepting it. So I thought, okay, fair enough. It didn't go through on their website. They got a crap website. I'll send it to them via email. So I sent them exactly the same thing again. Then it is, I got a reply back in regards to your redemption. The model you purchased was not a valid model for promotion. If you believe this is incorrect, blah, blah, blah. So I think this is some sort of either automated or Indian call center is the impression I quickly got with this. And I've replied, it said in the Bunnings email selling it, and it still says on your website that the DUC353PT2 is eligible for 2 batteries or a small saw as redemption. That is the model on the invoice unless you still can't read it. I've attached a screenshot from your redemption website that shows it in the list and even circled it for you, which I attached there. Can you please just sort this out and stop making excuses? I couldn't have filled in your website for this claim if it wasn't a valid model, which is exactly right. When you try to fill it in, you've got to input all this stuff and you've got to have valid dates and models and everything else, or it basically doesn't go through. I think it gives you a list of stuff to select from, basically, so you can't put anything else in there. Then we get the next email. Good morning, this redemption was only applicable 1st of the 4th 25 to 31st of the 8th 25, which I was well aware of, and had a final claim date of 15th of the 9th. I sent the claim in on the 1st. Your tax invoice is for the 1st of the 9th, which is outside the promotional period. I've attached the terms and conditions, blah, blah, blah. Which gives the date. You got to 15th of September to claim to actually claim it back, I guess. You've got to buy it in that period. And here it is. They've given me the model number they previously claimed was not included. There it is. You either get the DUC353PT2 saw or which is a little pruning one I think, or the 2 batteries. And that was the end of that email chain. They sent another separate email. Thank you for submitting it. Fortunately, your claim has been rejected as your documents show a purchase date outside the promotion period, blah, blah, blah. Contact us if you don't believe that's correct. And I've replied, it was ordered on the 22nd of the 8th, 25 via Bunnings special order as they didn't have them in stock. It arrived at my store on the 29th and I couldn't pick it up until the 1st of the 9th. Surely you're not saying this invalidates the redemption. I've attached the invoice for the 3rd time with the date circled, since you don't seem to have dealt with Bunnings before. If this is not sorted after this email, I'll go to Bunnings and get them to give me a couple of batteries at your expense, since it would have been false advertising. Because obviously I'm getting a bit sick of this. I'm meant to be doing other work and I'm getting these cretins annoying me about this. Now if we look at the invoice from Bunnings, which is the 1st of the 9th there, but if you look here, it says date order received, 22nd the 8th, 25, which is right. I ordered it on the 22nd of the 8th. It arrived, all I got was a text from Bunnings on the 29th to say it had arrived, which was like a Friday, and I was busy and I was doing stuff on the weekend, so it's like, well, I'll go in there on Monday and grab it. So, you know, no biggie there. I mean, it means the invoice for warranty reasons, you're going to get the date that you collected it, I guess, because you can't have used it before that. And so you got date order received, 22nd the 8th, 25. And our date here, delivery date. So I don't think delivery date counts as purchase date, but who knows, in Makita land, any excuse will do, it seems. And then we got another reply to that. Can you please provide the order confirmation from Bunnings that you would have received initially when placing the order with the 29th of the 8th date on it? And there was no order on that date because that was the date that I just said they'd SMS me to say it has arrived at Bunnings. Please pick it up within 5 days or we'll send it back. At which point I just replied, I don't have it, I'll return it for a refund, which is exactly what I'm going to do, because that, I think, is the end of my relationship with Makita after this. Like, this would have locked me in with 4 batteries on top of the other 2 I've got, plus technically a 3rd one as well. And yeah, the fact that this saw has got this dodgy feature on it, bad design, has sort of killed it for me. I've also got a steel electric lawnmower with a battery, and their saw's, I think, $500, or one of the better ones. I think there are even smaller ones than that. It's a couple of inches less than this, but that's not a big deal if it's just a limb saw. And I've already got the battery and charger, so I saved $300 there. It would have made sense if I could have got 4 batteries out of this and a fast charger. That probably would have made this worthwhile. Still not knowing, because nowhere on there in their sales stuff does it say it's got that silly feature there. And from the look of the steel one, it doesn't. I'm going to go into the steel shop when I return this and just confirm that. I don't think I'll actually buy one yet until I actually need it, because it's probably going to be 3 months or more before I'm going to really do any chainsawing. Weather's too bad at the moment and I've got other things to do. So I think I'll go with that platform for the saw. I really need to get a cordless whippersnipper or maybe a proper brush cutter, but I don't think they have anything much more than whippersnippers. But it'd be good to have something cordless and a chainsaw and the lawnmower. I can use them all on the one battery, because it's not like you're using them all at once. The lawnmower maybe once a week, once a fortnight at most. So I think we'll go with that platform. And I'll just, when this Makita stuff finally fails, I mean, I've only got 2 good drills that I bought off them with the 2 batteries. The rest of it's cheapo fakes off eBay. I was given a reciprocating saw by someone and the trigger switch is a little dodgy in that. Occasionally it decides not to run, and they're quite expensive, the parts, so I'm not going to bother putting a new switch in an old second-hand one of those. So I think we'll just call it, when the battery dies, or knowing Makita, the problem with their drills is their chucks are not very good these days, so probably the chuck will fail on one of the drills or something. So I think when that comes, I'll just abandon Makita. I'm not locked into their platform at the moment, other than, like I say, I can chuck out 2 drills and 2 batteries and a couple of $40 items, or 4 of them, or whatever I got now. Chances are I'll still have 1 battery to run those other things. And I think I'll just go and buy like a Milwaukee kit or something, because I know a friend who's got those, and they're pretty good quality units, and they don't have these horrible chucks Makita have now. You've got to tighten them really tight or the drill slips in them. Never used to be like that. And my last Makita, the drill chuck actually failed on it. I know someone who's had the ratcheting drill had their chuck fail on that, so they're not the greatest quality anymore, which is a bit of a shame. I would have liked to have a little electric saw like this. Would have been handy if the batteries meshed in with the other ones. I mean, that's what they all want you to do, is get onto their platform and stay with it. And it's a bit like cameras. Once you're locked into Canon or Nikon and you've got their lenses, you're kind of stuck with them unless you want to replace everything and sell all the other stuff. So I think at this stage is a good time to bail out. Pretty sure Bunnings won't have a problem refunding this, because I mean, it was basically false advertising, the redemption stuff, and plus this saw's not really fit for purpose because it's got this feature that no one said it had, which will make it difficult every time you take your hand off the trigger. It's going to turn off, so then you've got to stop, fiddle around, turn it on, even if it's just a small distraction each time. It's distracting you from a dangerous work site, and you're also at that time, and also that time's going to add up over a long job. Like if I'm cutting up a large eucalyptus tree or something and taking out lots of branches, every time I cut a few branches I've got to then pull some out of the way and then start cutting the rest of them. So it's going to be hands on and off that bit all the time. I'll be hanging on to that bit, hanging on to the saw most of the time, but occasionally even put it down. So I think that is a deal breaker. I really probably should have just took it back when I thought the thing was faulty in the first place. But now that they stuffed me around and coming up with 4 excuses I think so far. First we can't read the invoice, and then the model number's invalid, and then oh no, you're right, the model number isn't invalid, so the purchase date's invalid. And now I've showed them where the purchase date is, and they're like, well, now we need this other date, which wasn't a purchase date. It was just a notification that it had arrived at the Bunnings store, so I can't give you an invoice for that. And Bunnings aren't going to give you an invoice until you actually pick the thing up. So a bit of a stuff up. I mean, maybe that's partly Bunnings' fault, I don't know. But like I say, I've had a gutful of this thing now, so I've thrown it back in the box and it can go back to them. I haven't even cut any wood with it. I've got some oil in there some bar lube oil in there ready to go, and the weather's been bad and I've been doing other things, so it just didn't get there. And it's a good thing. I was actually going to take the box and the packing and take it to the tip today. And luckily they contacted me, well I think it was yesterday, about the first email, and today they got back to me with this other rubbish. So otherwise the whole box would have gone to the recycling bin at the tip. So luckily that happened before I went out this morning about 10 o'clock and took a load of rubbish to the tip for recycling and did a few other jobs while I was out. Otherwise I would have just had to take the bare saw back to them. So at least I still got the box to pack it in, but I've just thrown it back together as best as I can remember how it went. And hopefully Bunnings will do the right thing, because really by Australian law they've got to give you a refund if the thing's not fit for purpose, which it isn't. And also the false advertising that you can get a redemption kit on this. Like, there's no way I would have bought this without the redemption kit anyway. I wouldn't have even thought about it. But since I had those other things, it's like, oh well, a couple of extra batteries, technically 4 batteries you can use when you're not using the saw, would actually make life a bit easier when I'm doing a job that uses a few different things. So if you need a grinder and a circular saw or something alongside your drills, it'd be nice to have a couple of extra batteries to run those instead of swapping them around occasionally. But that idea was a bad idea, because it's all gone pear-shaped on this thing. So unfortunately my recommendation would be, on my experience, not to buy one of these. Don't waste your time on Makita. I actually think the steel, I'll check with them, like I say, that it doesn't have one of these silly features of turning off. All I can see is that you push in the larger mower battery. It's just a single battery, 36 volts in one battery, and you've just got the 2 buttons there. There's no sign of a power switch, so I hope they haven't got anything silly like that on it. But I can't imagine any other manufacturer would have gone with this, because I mean, people in the comments section, I had to look it up on YouTube, like I say, because there's nothing in the manual about it, nothing in the sales stuff about it. And people in there were commenting like, I know someone who's got a bad temper or whatever, they're not going to, got PTSD or something, they'll end up throwing a saw against the bloody tree or something, because they'll get sick of the thing turning off, sort of thing. So, is there any way around it? I think someone said there might be a modification to make it 30 seconds, some are 5 seconds, but this one's instant. So I'll see how I go. I'll add something if Bunnings have any issues, but I don't think they will. Bunnings are very good on refunds. So I think we'll just take it back, send it back, and then I'm rid of the Makita. Like I say, once my drills fail or the batteries or whatever, hopefully I'll have at least one battery I can keep running those other devices on. And, you know, who knows how long they're going to last. Anyway, probably alright with the amount I use them. And I think we'll just, if worse comes to worse, I can always buy one more Makita battery to keep the odds and sods going. And then I'll just buy a kit with 2 new drills, a reciprocating saw, probably the whole lot, grinder, circular saw, get a proper kit of all Milwaukee's, or maybe see what DeWalt and others have at the time. It's not like they don't have any competition on these things. So we'll see how we go on that, but I think we'll just see. I won't get tied into this platform now. This probably was a blessing in disguise, because next time I need a new set of drills, I can just go any brand I want, whoever's got the best deal, and talk to some people and see what they reckon is the best one. And that way I'm not locked into Makita. So there you go, not a very good experience. I've heard these redemption offer things are a bit dodgy. I don't think I've ever bothered using one before, because in the past, back in the 90s and that, they were known as being a bit iffy, I think, some of these things, and companies being a pain to actually get the redemption out of, and I've just had that experience. But yeah, very sort of poor quality experience with someone who either can't do their job, or they're purposely trying to sabotage it and not give you a redemption. That's what it feels like anyway. I mean, you can't tell me that a company like Makita hasn't dealt with Bunnings receipts and stuff before. Bunnings invoices, I mean, surely they sell a fair bit of stuff through Bunnings, and a lot of their stuff had redemption offers. I mean, the only reason I couldn't get this, they just didn't have it in the local stores where I am around Hobart. So otherwise I would have just gone in and got it, and then I would have had to fill out the redemption online anyway. So yeah, don't know, at least I guess I would have got into the store and got the right date on it, but I don't know why they're telling me this other stuff first. And it's like, I think the third excuse is that the date's wrong, after claiming that the model isn't valid. Well, they couldn't read the invoice. Then the model's invalid anyway, and then the date's invalid, and then I tell them where the right date is, and then they want a date that doesn't actually exist on any invoices. So, like I say, what's the next excuse going to be? I don't have time to stuff around with that sort of poor quality service or incompetence or whatever it is. I'm really too old to deal with any more of that sort of corporate shitification as you see on Lewis Rossman's channel all the time. Last thing I'm going to deal with, if they're anything like that, then they're a brand I'm not touching again. Which is a bit of a shame, but I've only really only on my second set of Makita drills. So it's not like I've been a lifelong Makita thing, and I think the last one was okay. Before that I had a Black & Decker drill, which was really good, and the chuck was really good on it. And this last one, the chuck failed, but I think it was okay. You could just tighten it up a reasonable amount and it was locked in. This latest one, you have to you twist your wrist off to get the actual thing tight enough, or otherwise you put the drill in a bit of metal or something and it spins inside the chuck. So I'm not real happy with the brand anyway. The ratchet drill seems alright. Haven't had any problems with that thing, but like I say, I've got a friend whose one finally died, though he used it a fair bit as a tradesman. But it's still not good enough that usually you should be throwing out the drill because something other than the chuck has failed on it. That's usually the one part of a drill that's always good. Back in the past, you always threw out a drill with a good chuck on it, and if you could be bothered, you'd sometimes unscrew it and save it, but you never used it. I used to have a couple of things I saved off old drills, and the next drills just went to the end of their life from batteries, motors, whatever, and the chuck is still fine. But anyway, that's my bitch about Makita, so I'll be taking this back. And like I say, I don't think Bunnings will be any problem to get a refund out of it. Would have been nice to have a fast charger and things, but for the amount of times I actually need it, it's not important to me. If it hadn't been for that redemption offer, like I say, I wouldn't have even looked twice. Because I've got a Power Pass account with Bunnings, they send you endless junk emails about this stuff. So most of them just go in the bin, and I saw this one and I thought, oh, 4 batteries and whatever, that kind of makes sense. I mean, the batteries and the charger are almost worth as much as what the whole package costs. Not that I would go out and buy 4 batteries, but a couple of extras would have been nice, and a fast charger in some situations, and especially if you had one of these saws, you definitely want the fast charger and you want the spare batteries. Makes this saw a lot more useful, because it's not very good with just one pair of batteries if you've got to stop each time and recharge. I guess I could use my old batteries, but it would be nice to have a couple of 5 ampere hours on this. Mine are only 3s. So the whole thing just turns out, without a redemption offer on it, it's a deal breaker. I never would have touched it in the first place. And also with this switch, so they kind of sold it two sets of false pretenses on this thing, really. They're refusing the redemption, or at least stuffing me around to the point I've had enough of them. And they got this poor quality design where the switch turns off, which should be mentioned to you. You shouldn't be buying something to find out it's got some feature like that. That should be in the fine print at least, or somewhere in there to say it's got this feature where we turn off and it's got this annoying problem with it the way it's designed. So I'll be interested to check a few others out and see if they've got that feature. But if this goes back alright, then I'll just buy a steel, I think, in about 3 months' time or whatever, when I get into. I've got a few trees in the garden I've got to get rid of, and one fairly big one I've got to fell, which I'll do with my big saw, but then I'm going to need something to cut it up, and I'd love to have a little electric one to do that. But anyway, unless there's any problems with this, thanks for watching.